All right, welcome back. So we are on our last section, which will be the find tool and the advanced selectors. So as you can see, we have our two recipes from before, and what we'll do now is just, I think, maybe go ahead and edit one. And what we'll do is essentially go through just the find tool in a little bit more detail, and I'll cover some advanced selectors you'll need for some more challenging websites. First, let's just quickly review. So we established our rows. So we have 4 rows, and it's person container. And then we have individual columns. We have URL, name, image, and then we did our nav. And then we also added actions from the previous page, but then we also got rid of those because they are not for this page we're currently looking at. Cool. So now let's jump back to the columns, because this is where you'll spend most of your time using the find tool and the advanced selectors. So at this point, let's go ahead and create a new column, and we'll give it a name. Let's just say testing, and we will now click the find tool. So as I mentioned in the earlier videos, the find tool will activate the hover, and you will be able to highlight by moving your mouse over different elements. And once you hit shift, you'll then kind of have the information in focus, but you need to select a selector here on the right to lock it in. So a little information about the stuff here on the right. So we have classes, element types, and then one other item you're going to see is called IDs. This is all information taken directly from the HTML, and what we use is just what we do essentially is just take that information, and then we use it as anchors so data miner knows where to find the information based on the classes or the elements. Sometimes the elements or the classes will just be kind of random numbers and letters. Other times it might be organized names. It really depends on the site, but ultimately what your first thing to do should be just to kind of click around and do like trial and error to see what seems to be working the best. And the way to gauge what's working is simply by looking on the website to see what is highlighting. So for example, if I try the P tag, or sorry, the P element, you will see that we have multiple P's, and this might have kind of a disorganized output when you finally scrape. So that may not be ideal, especially if you're only going after this one piece of information right here that I tapped or I hit shift on. So let's try title instead. And now as you can see, the title is much more specific to what I was going after, and it has fewer items. So that is essentially the process you'll do when you try to find the right selector. If there aren't any good ones, you'll use the parent to move up, and this gives you more options, but it might also kind of go further away from the data you're after. So with that said, actually, sorry, let me backtrack. Let's go back to just the P. So as you can see, we have multiple P elements, and let's say this is your only option and you have to use this element type as your selector. So what you can do is actually use the arrows here. So we have it's called choose a sibling element. We have some arrows, and this is essentially going to create an ordered list of all the items with a P. And then you can say with the arrow, I want the first one, or I want the second one. And you can do that by simply clicking up or down to move up or down. So if we continue to click up, you'll see that we're going through all the different P's on this page. So you can actually pick which one you want by just simply using the arrows. But a quick note about the sibling arrows is that it's all based on the position. So if you create some titles that say like, let's say a title 1, title 2, title 3, and the original title 1 happens to not be there on one page, then your other two P's will actually shift down, so then they will be misaligned by one cell. Because since it's based on the order, it's always going to pick the first or the second, and it won't be able to kind of create a structured format where the empty cell will remain empty. It will just shift down. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So now back to kind of what I was saying before with the parent element is you can actually use it to move further up the page to get more options. As you can see, we now have a basic info and a thing called container style, and then we have padding, margin, and as you can see, you get further up, you go further out and up the information. So you can use this parent button as a way to get more selection options, or you can use it to kind of create a roadmap, meaning you can combine different selectors to make a specific one that works for you. So let's go ahead and play with that a little bit. So what we'll do is, let's kind of clear this out and start fresh. Let's say we want a specific example. So we do a new column. Let's say I want to capture the experience. So what I'll do here is, so I hover and shift, and as you can see, we now have an experience class. So let's try that, and it looks good. So we can press confirm. But now, as you can see, we're also capturing the word experience, which is not ideal. Let's say you want just the actual number and the years. So let's go back in and do that again. Actually, it's already there. So what we can do here is, as I mentioned, you can kind of hover and shift, and you see we have a strong element here, which could have been an option, but now we're getting multiple. So as I mentioned earlier, you can kind of actually use multiple selectors to kind of create a roadmap. So what we can do is actually use this strong and then the original class experience. So what you will essentially be doing is combining these two. So you say, I want the experience row, or sorry, the experience like mini container here. And then actually in the element selector box, you can type, and we can actually type the word strong, because that is what focuses on just this one piece of information. So again, we did the class experience, and then we typed in the element strong, and that now gets us just the information we're after. So let's do that one more time with a different example. So let's say we want the industry. Let's go ahead and give that a name. Cool. We'll do find, and we will hit shift, and once again, looks like the strong is it has too many other selectors is associated with, and if we do industry, we're getting that whole word with the actual industry itself. So what we can do is select industry, do confirm, and then type strong in it, and now we're getting just the industry strong. Cool. And what I'll do now is do one more specific example with that whole title scenario. So let's say that we want to do clearance, but let's pretend that there was no clearance class. Let's say you're stuck with just the P element. Obviously, this is going to be way more information than you need if you want just the clearance. But what we can do is use an advanced selector, and it's called the contains. So what we'll do is actually a colon, and then immediately after the colon, we'll type the word contains, and then open and close parentheses. And then inside that, you're going to type the word that you're searching for. So not the data that you're actually going after, but the title that you're going to be looking for. So let's do clearance. Ooh, spell that. All right, so now what we did was we essentially told DataMiner to look for the word clearance on this page. And now that we did that, what we can do is once again type the word strong to get specifically just that one area or that one piece of information. And this would actually work for any of them. So we can replace this with experience, or we can do this with industry, and pretty much any word, as long as it's on the page, you can do it with the contains. And I'm going to do, let's see, I feel like we should do one more example for these selectors. All right, I think, so one more thing I'll show you is actually going to be in the more focused in the recipe creator element. So what I'll do here is, let's just select the title again. So let's say that for some reason we do not have any good classes or any good element types. What we can actually do at this point is go to the bottom recipe creator and select View Elements HTML. And this is going to show us the full HTML available. So all the raw information that DataMiner is pulling stuff from. And even though we built this site to kind of be easy, and it's going to have all the stuff available, we can still kind of mock it all up to be a little bit more difficult. So instead of, let's say that there was no class and then there was no a tag, what we can actually do is go in this HTML and copy something from it, and so highlight and then copy, and then anything raw taken from the HTML, all you have to do is simply put it in square brackets and then paste it, the full thing, and then it works just as if it were from something suggested. So even though we already provide you with classes, we can pretend that this was maybe something called like data attribute equals headline, or maybe title equals headline, and anything from here. In fact, I wonder if we could actually try this. Let's try the unique URL, or sorry, the href. I wouldn't recommend this because this is going to be specific to just this one person, but it should work. Cool. So essentially what we did here was we're saying anything with this href highlight, and so it's getting the name and the image, and so that will work for, let's see, I guess they're all going to be classes. So yeah, I think that is about it. There will be some more selector options in a table further down in the help page. They're all going to be kind of similar, and essentially what you want to do is just kind of become familiar with those, and as you learn to use them, you'll be able to build and kind of create more advanced selectors, and at that point you can pretty much use them on any site, because even though sites might be different, the same tricks and tips still apply, and you can kind of use them for any site. So I hope these videos were helpful. Thank you for watching, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on email support. All right, thanks, and I'll see you later.